No, you are not dreaming. This is a fresh edition of ESPN FC coming your way. Your wish has been granted. You're welcome in advance. Hello, everyone. I'm Alexis Nunes. Come hang with us for a couple of minutes, shall we? Stevie Nicol joining me, Shaka Hislop as well. But we've got a full house because we also have Gab Marcotti and Jan Fjortov to join us to talk about all of the transfer rumors that have been going on. Starting off with Benjamin Sesko. Now, Jan, let me come to you because yesterday on the show, Ale Moreno described him as a player who was a part of all the good we saw at Leipzig last season, but also a part of some of the issues that we saw. Now, for those of us who haven't seen him play much, how good is he?
Well, he's 22. He has got a lot of experience. He played for his country, scored for his country, I guess 16 goals for his country. So very experienced in terms of his age. Good. He's a tall guy. Good technique, and he will take the next step. But before I came on this show, I was thinking, people won't believe me because I'm a strikers union. I will say that this striker is the next big thing. So I called a friend of mine, Alex Rosén, who was the head manager or manager of everything in Hoffenheim for 11 years. And I talked to him about Sesko, and his words, I said, I'm going to go on ESPN, I'm going to describe this player. And he said, this is the next big thing. He has to take the next step. But he will be so great, Jan. Just believe me. And I think if Manchester United, as it seems now, he wants to go to Manchester United. And if this should happen for Manchester United, they would have themselves a great striker. And we'll just see how long time they will take. And I guess that's the analysis by Manchester United. Should we go for the young lad from Germany or from Slovenia? Or should we go for a more experienced like Olive Watkins that is already adjusted to the Premier League?
All right, well, with that glowing review, we could probably forget about what Ale Moreno had to say on his analysis. Gab, what about you? Are you buying all that hype that Jan just gave us about Benjamin Sesko?
I mean, we've been hearing about Sesko since he was, 17, 18 years old. I think people were salivating over the fact that this is a guy who, he's tall and lanky, but he's also extremely athletic. He moves very, very well, and he has good technique. He's got a good eye for goal. Now, the question is, how does it all come together? When does it all come together? Last year, I was so excited by the SOS, Sesko, Openda, Xavi Simons, and it never quite really, I think, got to where they wanted it to be. He didn't make that quickly forward. And you look at 22, well, he's old enough to be Lamine Yamal's uncle or whatever. So I think the question is, was Leipzig the right place for him to continue developing further? And from his perspective, is Manchester United the right place? Because, of course, the last bright young striker, center forward, who moved to United for a lot of money was Rasmus Højlund. Certainly, I think if you're United and you're going to make that kind of investment in him, you have to make sure that everything's right. You have to make sure that people are going to be patient. You have to make sure that he fits what Amorim wants to do. And you have to make sure that the pieces around him are in place. In other words, I think you have to really do your homework, but there's no question. I mean, he's a massive prospect, and if you get this right, you've got yourself, and he does take that next step, potentially you're talking one of the top 5 center forwards in the world, if he makes that step forward.
Well, Gab, we're going to talk about Rasmus Højlund a bit later and how this could affect him. But we've also spoken on the show about how Manchester United are trying to have a cautious transfer window because of the bad deals that they've done in the past. When we're looking at the price tag attached to Sesko, it's looking like a lot of moolah. Can Manchester United afford this?
Yeah, you mean afford it and stay within the rules of financial stability? I think that's a legit question. I mean, all we heard from Jim Ratcliffe was pleading poverty and how the club are going to go to the wall if he hadn't made cuts and laid off the tea ladies and the secretaries and whatnot. They're saving themselves some considerable salaries in terms of some of the people who left, and obviously Rashford as well. But yeah, I think it's a question mark. And if you push the boat out to that level, my question also would be, are you not going to invest in the midfield at that point? Is it really going to be, Kobbie Mainoo, Casemiro, Ugarte, and the gang? I mean, is this really what Amorim wants, what Amorim needs at this stage? I'm not so sure. And the other thing is, if you don't get the sequence right here, having already invested in Brian Mbeumo and Matthias Cunha, you're in a situation potentially where you get Sesko, and then everybody needs you have to go and offload, well, Sancho we already know about, but then Garnacho, but also probably Højlund at that stage. And then all of a sudden, people are going to be in a stronger position. They're going to have the leverage to negotiate you down. And I think that's another, not a good situation, I think, to be in if you're running a club's recruitment department.
I think if I may say that one of the reasons, first you see that you buy the wrong players. Okay, that is a failure of a club like Manchester United. But then you get the second wave when you try to offload them because you can't get money for them. You can't get money in. And I know the Manchester United fans don't like us to compare them with Liverpool Football Club, but Liverpool Football Club will now offload first Diaz, 75 million euro. They will probably do the same with Nunez. Will they get 60, 65 million euro for him? So wrong recruitments, they come in waves. The first wave to get them in, and then the trouble is to sell them again.
All right, Stevie, after everything you just heard now, price tag, his qualities as well, the fact that we know that Manchester United are prioritizing a striker in this transfer window, should they just go for it?
My biggest worry is for Sesko. And quite frankly, you know, successful teams are usually built from the back forward. And certainly successful teams are built in the guts of the team forward. You don't start up front. Look at all the players they're signing. If they sign Sesko, they've signed 3 forwards, basically. You've got to get them the ball. You've got to get them opportunities to score. And what Manchester United have right now in the middle defensively isn't good enough to produce that for those 3 players. As again, if Sesko goes. I mean, if I'm Sesko, I'd be worried that I'm going to stall at Manchester United. You know, you try and, you know, you look at the path that Haaland's had. You know, he's done it the right way. He's built, and then he's joining a team in Manchester City that they're at the top of the tree. No wonder the guy continues to score goals and continues to get better. Is Sesko going to do that at Manchester United? I'm not so sure. And if they do get Sesko, Gab's talking about, you know, financial fair play. So they're not going to have any money to strengthen the middle of the park, strengthen that defence, strengthen in goal. So, yeah, if I'm Sesko, I'm sorry, but I'm going nowhere near Manchester United.
So, added to that, you've already spent north of 150 million in replenishing your squad. You'll probably spend another 75 to bring in Sesko. Speculation about another goalkeeper, which adds on top. I'm not sure you're going to get the 50 back or whatever it is that you paid for Onana, if that's the case. And all of a sudden, if some of this speculation is true about the direction of Manchester United intending to go, you again question profit and sustainability and all the noises you've been hearing from Ineos, etc. So there, to the question, there are a lot of layers to this that, from a business perspective, just don't quite add up. What is a definite cert, though, is Manchester United need an out-and-out striker, and it's a very small market. You see what Newcastle are doing, and their interest in Sesko from the time Alexander Isak gets linked with Liverpool. That speaks to how shallow that pool is.
Yeah, and what's your final verdict on this, and what does the player himself probably want? Because as Xhaka pointed out, it sounds like Newcastle are also interested in his signature, especially if they do end up losing Alexander Isak to Liverpool.
What we do know is that both Manchester United and Newcastle United have told RB Leipzig they're talking to the team Sesko, so to say. I reported this morning, and I've been told that he prioritized to go to Manchester United. That's the club. If you're going to choose between these two Uniteds, Newcastle or Manchester. Also remember that the director of recruitment is Christopher Vivell. Christopher Vivell, he worked in the Red Bull system. He worked with Red Bull Salzburg. He worked with RB Leipzig, wasn't very successful at Chelsea as technical director, but now he's back to where he is good at, director of recruitment. And I guess that will play a role for Sesko. So as it stands, he wants to, if to choose between these two clubs, he wants to go to Manchester United.
Every time we talk about this, a piece of Xhaka Hislop dies inside, but we're going to have to press on. Alexander Isak to Liverpool. Gab, what's the latest here? How likely is it to happen now?
Well, I mean, obviously the sale of Luis Diaz, I think what most people would say is a very good price given his age, and his contractual situation to Bayern, that brings in a pretty significant chunk of funds. I'm still a little bit skeptical that this can be done without more pieces moving out, because I genuinely think the priority is or should be, or maybe it's all a smokescreen and they're really working on this, a center back, right? Lock up Konate and get somebody in there so that when Virgil is ready to hang them up, you've got a third alternative that's not Joe Gomez. But certainly Isak has made his position very clear towards Newcastle about sort of expecting to be allowed to leave, and if Newcastle are going to stick to the kind of valuation that they've had, then it becomes a lot more difficult. Now, in some ways, Sesko though is a piece of this puzzle, right? Because what Newcastle want to absolutely avoid is Isak leaving, even for a large chunk of cash, and then Newcastle being forced to go out in the market for a center forward, with everybody knowing that they're sitting on the Isak money. And then it becomes very difficult to negotiate. So I think maybe just as Ekitike seemed to fit into this equation somehow, Sesko may fit into it as well, with Newcastle or more likely intermediaries saying, well, hang on a minute, if you lose one big lanky striker with a Bundesliga pedigree, here's another one who could be kind of the next Isak. Different players, obviously, but you get my point here. And if you know that you can bank some of the Isak money, and then you already have a replacement with maybe the other half of the money, then maybe you're in good shape. Then maybe you're not going to necessarily go to war with the player who, lest we forget, has another 3 years on his contract. My hunch still is that this ends up with Isak signing a new deal, albeit one with a release clause. But man, what we're seeing Liverpool do, especially on the selling side, anything can happen.
Are you Manchester City in disguise? That's exactly what I would ask Liverpool. But yeah, we're seeing figures of up to almost 120 million. If this does happen for Liverpool, what does it mean for Ekitike after we spoke so glowingly about him and how he'd be a great signing for Liverpool? But will he get any playing time if they get Isak?
He's in the market again. They will keep him for a couple of weeks, one half on a world tour, and he's out again. It's interesting. I will think that this was talked about. I think that they've been open about that also Isak could come in. And the funny part of it, I go behind Gab's analysis, but the funny part is that Manchester United is playing a role here, because if they get Sesko, Newcastle won't get Sesko, and Isak maybe have to stay. So Manchester United can keep Isak away from Liverpool. So there is so many things playing into this, and the timeline is important here. Who starts first? And as Gab is saying, if they get unbelievable money, but I can understand that the football fans out there, they don't get this. They don't understand why Alexander Isak's club, they got more oil and gas than the whole rest of the world. And Liverpool, last time we checked, there was no oil gas in Liverpool. But we know, we understand how they've done this over the 3 last windows. They built up their potential to use that money. They get money when players go out. They got a new deal with Adidas. They won the league and so on. But I think in this stage of the transfer window, it's just unbelievable. And to your point, Ekitike, so they got the mini Isak, and then they take the main Isak as well. I mean, that is just unbelievable. And even Stevie will need to say that the Liverpool had already won the league, haven't they, Stevie?
Yeah, Stevie, what do you think of all this?
I think it's really strange that if tomorrow is Liverpool sign Isak for 120 million, I'm not going to be dancing on the table. Which seems a little weird, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does.
Xhaka will be bawling.
Yeah, well, I'll be crying under the table.
I've just sat here and talked about Man United, where I'm saying you have to build through the guts of the team, and you build from the back forward, and you get your base and the whole thing.
You want your centre back, don't you?
I want my centre back.
Yeah.
Had Ekitike not been at Liverpool, I would be dancing on the table if they turned around tomorrow and said we signed Isak. But the fact that they have Ekitike now, I'm thinking, 120 million on, it kind of feels like something you don't need. When there's a big hole that Well, I think it's clear there's a big hole there that needs filled, but yet you're going to spend 120 mil on something you probably don't need. That's kind of weird.
It is a weird situation, Shaka, but even weirder if this deal doesn't materialize and Isak stays at Newcastle. Say they offer him a great deal, they get to keep the man there at St. James's Park, but then will they still get the same productivity from him if they block this move?
If the move doesn't come through, I think they will. Alexander Isak is, 26, 27 years old, still has a lot of miles on his clock, and you understand that he continues to play as he has over the last couple of seasons, especially last season where he was relatively injury-free. That value only continues to go up. And as I mentioned, in talking about Benjamin Sesko and both Manchester United and Newcastle
But
involved, that's a very small pool.
Would he be happy if they force him to stay? We can see how toxic these situations get.
Well, force is a strong word in that, to Gab's point, he's got 3 years left on his contract.
If they firmly remind him of that, then.
Well, and that's the thing. Listen, and as much as, by according to reports, he's not shown up for training and kind of let his feelings be known, that's all well and good. If Newcastle stick to their guns, if they can't get a replacement and decide, well, you're staying, he has one of two choices. One, not to play. That does his value no good. That does prospects no good. That does any interest from the likes of Liverpool or anybody else absolutely no good. Or play, have another season as he did. And as Gab said, Gab filled me with hope. I'm not sure how Gab knew exactly how much he filled me with hope by saying he thinks the outcome to this is Alexander Isak signs a new deal with a release clause. Then that's a win for Alexander Isak. That's a win for Newcastle United, if we get to that stage. Now, again, we've got another month and a couple of days to run before the transfer window closes. So there's a lot that can happen in that space. But there really isn't a lot by way of ready-made replacements with potential for Newcastle. And I think that kind of is restricting what they do, because I do not think they let Alexander Isak go without a replacement.
And I do not think Shaka Hyssop can sit through another segment where we're talking about
Gab has filled me with hope, though. Gab has given me hope.
Filled you with hope, indeed.
Really has.
Well, we've got extra time coming your way a little later on, and Jan and Gab will be back for that alongside myself, as well as Stevie and Shaka, so tune in for it. All right, well, this is the headline on sport over in Spain. Operación Polémica, speaking about the situation between Marc-Andre, Ter Stegen and Barcelona. It pretty much translates to a very complicated situation. And I would even go as far as call it a toxic situation that's brewing over there. So we have to bring in my girl Gemma Soler whenever we need anything to make sense of the situation at Barcelona. Gemma, we always joke that we can never have a calm, chill summer without any drama when it comes to Football Club de Barcelona. Looking at this situation now, we know that Ter Stegen has undergone back surgery. He said he was going to be out for 3 months. The club says it's actually mainly 4 months. What on earth is going on there? Because like I said, it's looking toxic. So could he have already played his last game for Barcelona?
So, yes, Alexis, is toxic, it's an open war, and yes, it seems unlikely that he will play for Barcelona. But, you know, this club, anything can happen. The situation is this: at the end of last season, Barcelona were not sure that he was reliable enough to be number one, so they decided to sign Joan Garcia and to extend Wojtek Szczesny. There is another situation, is that he's one of the highest earners of the club, about 15 million euros per year, so they need their salary, or at least part of that salary, to make the Liga's financial fair play regulations. And then, as you mentioned, Ter Stegen announced on social media that he will undergo in surgery and that he will be 3 months out. It's strange to say the recovery time before going to that surgery, and this is because Barcelona needs him to be at least 4 months out to use the 50% of his salary. So the situation right now is, yesterday Marc-Andre Ter Stegen undergo to surgery in Bordeaux in France, the same doctor that he did surgery last season. It's not public yet, the expected recovery time, and it will be a committee of doctors in La Liga who will decide that time, and then we will know the new chapter of this, what it looks, Alexis, like an ugly divorce.
Yeah, it does look like an ugly divorce is on our hands, which is something we never like to see. And Gemma, you know I'm a big fan of Ter Stegen, and he's been such an instrumental part of the Barcelona family. He feels like he's Catalan. He still is their top captain as well. So you did say that they realized at one point that he was no longer their number one choice. When did that happen, and why do they want to get rid of him so bad?
There's been a couple of situations. One is the fact that they don't think he was recovered enough. Also, the fact that I mentioned that he's one of the biggest salary men. And then also there's been a lot of off-field situations. At the end of last season, he put a lot of pressure on Chesney and on Iñaki Peña, pushing because he wanted to be number one back very fast so he could be the number one in Germany for the Nations League. This didn't like the teammates, the locker room. Also, there was another situation, so he decided to travel at the final of the Copa del Rey and leave the trophy because he still is the captain number one, but he didn't travel to Milan in that difficult semi-finals. And another situation is, you remember we were live here in FC when Barcelona had the celebrations of La Liga title. There was supposed to be parliament by the captains, and Ter Stegen decided not to speak. He was not very happy because he was not playing. So this is the situation. Hansi Flick, he confirmed today that will be the players who decide who is captain and not. This will be 1 week before the start of La Liga, and we will see. And if we talk about divorce, we need to talk about who's going to be less damaged. And of course, Barcelona can be damaged economically and this difficult situation. But also, Nagelsmann said today that he will wait for Ter Stegen for the World Cup, but he wants him to be the number one at his team. So we'll see if this affects somehow.
Yeah, Shaka, this is looking like a sticky situation, as Gemma just said. In terms of the national team, everyone's thinking of that now. We are a year out from the FIFA World Cup next summer. Ter Stegen, I'm sure, is thinking of that. And even though Nagelsmann said, yeah, I still have him in my mind, but he did say you have to be the number one wherever you're playing. So should Ter Stegen just cut his losses at Barcelona, accept the difficult divorce, and go somewhere else?
I'm not sure it's going to be that easy for Ter Stegen. One, I'm with you in that I'm a huge fan of Ter Stegen. I continue to be outstanding goalkeeper, but kind of given the last year, you go from one serious injury into another, albeit unrelated, sitting on the face of it. That's not a good look for a goalkeeper who's, 33 years old now. And then this now takes you, if it's 3 months, whether it's 4 months, we're talking about the end of the year before Ter Stegen is back to full fitness, and giving you six months to establish yourself and prove to Nagelsmann that you're good enough to be number one, which, as we said right now, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that he is. I'm still not sure that he's Nagelsmann's out and out choice as number one. So it's a difficult situation for him. He's only 2 years into a 5-year deal as well. So he has equity on his side in that regard in terms of negotiating or holding out or being the more toxic between the two with Barcelona. But in terms of what's to come in a year's time, I'm not sure it gives him an awful lot of wiggle room. No, it just comes down to, is he more determined to play for Germany at the World Cup, or more determined to be that toxic ex-partner of Barcelona's? And I can't speak for him as to where his motivations are.
I love it when someone gets petty. But not Ter Stegen. Like I said, I'm a huge fan.
I don't know what to do with that comment.
If you're going to go through a nasty breakup, be petty. Just call me Petty LaBelle.
I don't know.
I'm a fan of that. Anyways, look at some of the La Liga title odds here. And believe it or not, despite Barcelona winning the domestic treble last season, it's actually Real Madrid that are favorites to win it all this upcoming season. Gems, let me come to you for this one, because I'm sure this won't sit well with you. Do you agree, after everything we saw, what more could have Barcelona done apart from win the Champions League, but at least at home in Spain? Do you agree Real Madrid still the favorites to win?
Yes, I agree. Real Madrid are always favorites. They got interesting reinforcements. Hausen, Mastantuono, Álvaro Carreras, Alexander-Arnold. Despite the Clubs World Cup disappointment, I still think Xavi Alonso is the right fit for them. And last but not least, you know, they were not very happy with the referees last year. They've changed, the Spanish FA changed all the referees, the CTA is fully renewed. We'll see if they are happy with that this year, but I think they have a very interesting project.
Well, if you heard that little thump, it wasn't just my jaw that hit the floor when Gemma said she agrees with that. It was Stevie. Stevie, you didn't like that. Real Madrid favourites? No way.
How can Real Madrid possibly be favourites?
For all the reasons Gemma just said.
Hold on a sec.
Better signings.
Can somebody tell me what's going to happen with the front line of Real Madrid? Can somebody tell me? Do we know what Vinny's going to turn up like? Do we know what Mbappe's going to be like? Do we actually know what's going on in the middle of the field with this team? I mean, there's... I'm sorry. And Trent Alexander and Tyson doesn't totally take them into another stratosphere. Does it make them better? Yes, it does. But they got bigger problems in the middle of the park and up front. So Barcelona, where are their problems? Maybe financial.
Yeah.
But in terms of on the field, without a ball being kicked yet, I'm sorry, they are way ahead of Real Madrid. Way ahead.
I think Gemma should hand over her Catalan citizenship to Stevie Nicol because Stevie, you will be welcome in Barcelona all the time. But Gems, what did you think of what Stevie said? That Barcelona don't seem to have that many problems apart from financially, at least on the pitch. They've done it all this last season.
Yeah, well, they have another problem is that they still don't have a stadium and we don't know where it's going to be ready. But apart from that, I agree that Barcelona have a nice team, interesting to see with the reinforcements and with the new Lamine Yamal over 18 now. But I do think that Barcelona have a lot of issues.
Yeah, they still also have to register a couple of players, but we will get to that eventually. But now that you mentioned...
They did have a stadium last year. That didn't do them too bad.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they'll be happier staying in Montjuic. But Gemma, the truth is we all want to be back at the Camp Nou. Let's be honest. Nothing better than seeing an El Clásico there. And we know that we will be there on ESPN. So what's the latest there? They were supposed to host the Joan Gamper Trophy. That obviously is not going to happen. Then we thought it would be ready in time for their first La Liga game, which is about 2 weeks away. So we know that's definitely not going to happen. What's the latest?
So, well, it remains uncertain. The first phase of the construction works is completed. So 2 of the 3 stands are ready. The third is installed at the Camp Nou. And despite this footage, I can assure you it's ready to hold a football game. But the problem is security issues because a representative of the city council and the fire department, they must sign a document certifying that it's safe to hold a sports event with 60,000 people there. And Barcelona thought for the Joan Gamper this was good enough, and the technicians they decided the opinion was different. So they are working in trying to find a solution to make especially the exits, the departure of all these 60,000 people safe for everyone. Will this happen before the first home game, that is the second week of September, or not? This is the question, because also the problem in that second week of September is that the Olympic Stadium, the Lluís Companys, is busy because there is a concert of Post Malone there. So they don't have any other venue because the other stadium Barcelona has, the Johan Cruyff, it's only 6,000 spectators, and La Liga is at least you need to have 8,000 spectators. So it remains very uncertain what will happen, and in case they don't manage to make it for this week of September, they will have to play in Montjuic, trying to find a solution for this first game, because when they start the Champions League, it requires a team to play all their league phase matches at one and only one venue. So this is quite another crisis at Barcelona.
All right, Gemma, well, I'm going to have you complete this sentence and hopefully give us a hopeful answer. Barcelona's first game at the Camp Nou will be?
I don't know, against this is gambling, against Valencia, the 13th of September, hopefully.
Oh, 13th of September. That's a lot sooner than I thought. That's just right after Post Malone. We should all go to Barcelona for some Post Malone.
We all need to chip in.
Stevie, do you know who Post Malone is?
kind of question is that?
Did you know who Post Malone is?
Who's she?
Who's she? Oh, my days. It's like talking to your granddad or great-granddad. Anyways, Post Malone's a great artist. Gemma Soler, muchísimas gracias, mi crema catalana. It was an absolute pleasure speaking with you. We'll definitely catch up with you as we continue to track Barcelona's movements. Well, as you heard, La Liga will be back on ESPN. A very, very busy opening weekend on our network. Here are all the fixtures. Make sure to tune in then. All right, let's head on back to England now because Chelsea are set to make another young addition to their squad. Ajax's 19-year-old defender, Jorrel Hato, will be making the move from Stamford Bridge to Stamford Bridge for around 40 million euros. Now, he's expected to sign a 7-year contract with the Blues. All right, we've got Jan and we've got Gab back with us. Gab, let me come to you because I know you're very close to Chelsea in those parts in London. How do you see him fitting into this squad now? Because I think the last thing a lot of people were wondering is if Chelsea could actually sign any more players.
Again, from the boring PSR financial sustainability angle, obviously deals like the João Felix deal, and they help. And I still think that they're pretty confident they can move others out. I don't necessarily know that Chelsea view it like that. They want to accumulate young talent and kind of see where it fits in later on. Is he somebody that they definitely needed in the here and now? Probably not.
Jan, is he one for the future to be a squad player now, or do you see him getting a start anytime soon?
I think he will get games because there are a lot of games during a season. But I think that the philosophy of Chelsea, they want the hottest prospects, and this is one of the hottest prospects. We talked about Sesko in the age of 22 has played a lot of games. This guy is 19. He's played for a couple of seasons. He's an international. I mean, it's the right player to get. And the philosophy of Chelsea, if the right player is available, we have a chance to get him, give him at least a 7-year deal. And as Gab is saying, Chelsea are very confident that they can get players out. They have a way of selling to the Saudis anyway. So that is a bank guarantee for them. And I was discussing with someone on X about Chelsea, and then a guy just posted me and he said, Jan, we are the best team in the world for the next 4 years.
Oh,
so
Jan had to get that in.
Yeah. So when the best team in the world want a young player, they should get him.
They should get him indeed. They are world champions. Jan reminds us every single show, and here we are winding up all the Chelsea fans as well. What do you think of this, Stevie?
I'm trying to figure out from the player's point of view. The fact that he's played a lot of games is great. But to go and play a lot of games and then all of a sudden make a move and then you don't play, that's not easy for a 19-year-old. Gab's saying he's mature. Well, he might be mature on the field, but to go to London and then to be sitting on your backside and not playing, because if you're not playing, you're not going to get any better. If he's one for the future, you've got to play games. Now, you can say, all right, he can play in the League Cup, he can play in the FA Cup, but if you're Jorrel Hato, you want to be playing week in and week out and then fulfil the potential you have sooner rather than later. So, great move for Chelsea. Guy's a great player right now. But is it going to stifle his maturity? One thing that will do that is sitting on your backside.
All right, well, let me show you this graphic because one thing's for sure, Chelsea are not short of attacking options, especially forwards and midfielders. So, Gab, let me come to you in this one because we see Xavi Simons there. Are you surprised by Chelsea's interest in him?
Again, I think he fits into that mold of players who can, who are versatile and who are young and who are very promising. Does it make sense in the sense, can I give him minutes straight away, depending how you want to use Xavi Simons? We have him, I think he's more of an attacking midfielder, more of a 10 possibly, than as a winger. And, you have Cole Palmer, and then we've seen Cole Palmer play wide. We've seen Enzo play in that position. We saw Pedro can play at a 10. And, of course, Kendry Paz is on his way too. I think they look at this and they say, all right, is there value in the player? If we have to pay 60 million for him, but we think he's a 75 million, 80 million guy, let's pull the trigger and then we'll figure out later. As long as you're good at moving players out at the right price, you can get away with that. For me personally, what I would say about Simons is, obviously, you're talking about a guy, he was at Paris Saint-Germain, he was at Leipzig. He's a full-on Dutch international. I think he's the kind of player that if he moves, he's going to expect to start. And I think he's going to be careful about where he goes to. I don't think he would want to be a squad player. He doesn't see himself necessarily as that kind of player. So I am a little bit surprised. I personally think if Simons comes, this would suggest to me that another big or biggish player might be moving on the way out, and he would have a pathway, into the first team where he could compete regularly for football. Because this is not a guy that's where Jorrel Hato is, where they can tell him, sit behind Cucurella for a couple years and play in the League Cup. This is a guy who's played Champions League football. He's a full-on Dutch international. This is a big star who's coming in.
Yeah, and you heard Gab. This is a full-on Dutch international. He is a big star. If he makes the move to Chelsea, he's not there to be a squad player. He's going to expect starts. How good is he?
He wouldn't play in my starting 11 at Chelsea. I couldn't see him right now if I put up, of all the players you put in there, all the flexible kind of choices you have to pick of that roster that you showed us, I wouldn't put him straight into the team.
I'm with Jan on this. I think Xavi Simons is a good player, but not one that I'm mindful that I'm talking about the world champions here, that takes them onto another level. Good addition, but I'm not sure that he's the impact player that certainly the price tag would suggest.
My biggest worry is for Sesko, and quite frankly, successful teams are usually built from the back forward, and certainly successful teams are built in the guts of the team forward. You don't start up front. Look at all the players they're signing. If they sign Sesko, they've signed 3 forwards, basically. You've got to get them the ball. You've got to get them opportunities to score. And what Manchester United have right now in the middle defensively isn't good enough to produce that for those 3 players. Again, if Sesko goes. I mean, if I'm Sesko, I'd be worried that I'm going to stall at Manchester United. You try and, you look at the path that Haaland's had. He's done it the right way. He's built, and then he's joining a team in Manchester City that they're at the top of the tree. No wonder the guy continues to score goals and continues to get better. Is Sesko going to do that at Manchester United? I'm not so sure. And if they do get Sesko, Gab's talking about, financial fair play. So they're not going to have any money to strengthen the middle of the park, strengthen that defence, strengthen in goal. So, yeah, if I'm Sesko, I'm sorry, but I'm going nowhere near Manchester United.
On this one, because this was a rumour that had me saying a lot of Hail Marys. I was on my knees praying to the Lord that this possibly could happen in any sort of way. Do I need to donate some of my money to Manchester United so that they could make it happen? Because I will. So what's the latest on Donnarumma leaving PSG and going to Manchester United?
So according to multiple reports, negotiations have apparently broken down again between this is between Donnarumma and Paris Saint-Germain. This is good for you.
Okay.
In terms of extending his contract. And of course, Paris Saint-Germain were moving for Lucas Chevalier from Lille in a deal worth about 40 million. So the thinking is, we're bringing in Donnarumma's replacement. Donnarumma's on the market. I think there's a little bit more here than meets the eye. Obviously, Paris Saint-Germain don't want to let Donnarumma's contract run down to 0. So they would, if they do get Chevalier, if Luis Enrique has moved on from Donnarumma because he wants a keeper who's better with his feet, whatever else, then they'll try to push him out there. But the real difficulty with Donnarumma is that this is a guy who is earning round about 16, 17 million euros a year, something like close to 300,000 pounds a week, which for a goalkeeper especially, well, it's a lot for anyone, but that is huge money for a goalkeeper. Plus side, he's still really young. He's 26 years old, and it feels like he's been around forever. Made his debut for Milan at 16. So yeah, Manchester United, they could probably get him relatively cheaply. I mean, there was talk of 40 million. You could probably negotiate that down, or maybe you do a deal where maybe you work something out, you take him on loan, with an obligation to buy or something like that. There are ways to make this happen, but I think the wages become a sticking point. The last Manchester United goalkeeper on enormous wages, of course, was David De Gea. That didn't end up great. And I think Donnarumma, because he's not great with his feet, and because a lot of coaches like keepers who can participate in the build-up and playing out from the back, they might say, "Ooh, I'm not sure I want this guy because when I build, he's not optimal for that." I don't know. For me, he's one of the very best goalkeepers in the world, but I think he needs to take a pay cut if he wants to pick the team that's right for him. If he wants to stick with the kind of money that he's on already, then it gets very tough because there's very few teams that can pay that kind of money, and there aren't many teams, I think, who are looking to upgrade a keeper who can also afford Gigi Donnarumma.
Shaka, you know where my loyalties lie, so I mean this respectfully, but put yourself in Donnarumma's very, very expensive shoes for a second, and just think, if you're in his situation, why on earth would you want to leave PSG? They're not world champions like Chelsea, but let's be honest, in our hearts, they really are the European champions, which means a bit more in our books at least. Why would you want to leave PSG for Manchester United, knowing exactly what the situation is there?
I couldn't answer that question for you, Alexis, honestly. I mean, you go from European champions to a team that are not competing in Europe at all this season. For a goalkeeper like Donnarumma, given his pedigree, given the fact that we're 12 months away from a World Cup and all that means, going to Manchester United, especially from PSG, doesn't make an awful lot of sense to me. And I'm with Gabi. There aren't many clubs who can afford that kind of a price tag for a goalkeeper. The other possibly being Real Madrid, and let's be honest, they're well looked after with Courtois. So I don't see any circumstance where Donnarumma goes somewhere else and gets that kind of money, let alone talk about fitting into a manager's plans. Whatever you make of Donnarumma, and Gab's right as well, with his playing style, with the ball at his feet, it worked for PSG. So I really can't understand why that link continues to persist, other than as a negotiating tool for Donnarumma.
Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Once Manchester United, everyone wanted to go there. Now they're a negotiating tool. Lovely, lovely. Well, speaking of Manchester United, we know how many players they do have to get rid of, Jan, and one of those players is Jadon Sancho, who's found himself at the wrong side there in Manchester United. Now, the rumors of him going to Juventus have pretty much dried up, but we are hearing that he could be headed back for a third stint at Dortmund. What's the likelihood of that?
Well, I followed Jadon Sancho because I was following Erling Haaland when he was there. He was one of the best players in the world. He was one of the best players in the German Bundesliga, if not the best. And it seems that Dortmund was the only place that he was happy. I mean, Stevie has taken the role of going into the player's mind today. And if I will take that role for a while with Sancho, I will look where I'm happy, because it doesn't look like Jadon Sancho is always happy when he plays football. He was that at Dortmund, maybe not so in the second stint that he had there. But still, this is a place to go. He can play for 81,000 fans every home game. He's a good old yellow wall. He knew that he has a bit credit there after his first stint there. He did so well. So I can see this happening. But I think it's a bit sad when you see players like Sancho just like going down and no disrespect to Dortmund, but just going down the pecking orders of clubs. You see that with Felix as well. It just kind of disappear from the football map, so to say. And again, I don't say that with disrespect to Dortmund, but if that was his main wish, he would have stayed there, wouldn't he? But I can see this happening because I can see that Dortmund is struggling to get strength, get new players in, and you can see some kind of Rashford deal kind of thing by him going to Dortmund, and also save some money for Manchester United.
And Sancho, I want to go to a club and say, look, I'll sign for you, but we have to start thinking in terms of 3 years, 4 years. yes, I will take a pay cut from what I'm on because I'm not anywhere near my wages. But it's got to be the right fit for me. And, there's got to be that opportunity. If he just goes on loan and he's a free agent in June and Dortmund covered part of his wages, it doesn't really help anybody. Yeah, Manchester United save a little bit of money. I'm not sure it really even helps Sancho. So I think that is the difficult part. And of course, he had the opportunity to stay at Chelsea. The pay cut that they were asking for, the terms weren't right for him, and he turned it down. I wonder if he regrets that, frankly. I suspect Manchester United certainly regret that he didn't say yes to Chelsea. I think if you're United, you're going to write off his amortization for this year because I don't see anybody giving you significant money for somebody in that position. If on top of that, I also have to negotiate some sort of multi-year deal, which Sancho could just say no to because he can walk in 12 months and go wherever he likes and kind of start afresh. So that's a difficult balancing act. As Jan said, Dortmund have to really kind of appeal to his heart, appeal to his emotions, and kind of convince themselves that this is the right environment for him to regain his mojo. He's 25 years old, so he still has a lot of football ahead of him.
Yeah, and well, there's a lot of football coming up as well on ESPN, especially German football. The German Super Cup, Stuttgart against Bayern Munich, August 16th at 2 p.m. on ESPN Plus as well as ABC. Welcome into Extra Time. Let's get in on it. Look how happy Gab and Jan look to be joining us for Extra Time.
Bopping away.
Gab's bopping away. He's feeling it. All right, let's get this one is from Jeremy, and he says, PSG have a young, successful group, no doubt wanting more. Does the standard of Ligue 1 give them an unfair advantage for Champions League? Gab, let me start with you because you look puzzled by this question.
So, this is the age-old question, right? When you've got a dominant team in a league and they do well in Europe, people say, "Oh, look, they have an advantage because they don't have to worry domestically. They just stomp everybody until they're well rested for the European games. The league's not draining, and so on." When you have a dominant team in a league and they do not do well in Europe, well, that's unfair because they pay the price because week in, week out, iron sharpens iron. They're not tested, and so they're not used to playing against better teams, tougher competition. Look at the Premier League. It's so competitive. It's so tough. That's why they do well in Europe. Like, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. You can shape this theory any way you like, frankly. I think, again, some of these teams, when they know they're going to win, it's really hard probably to find the motivation and so on. But, they get motivated to play the Champions League. There's a lot of Champions League games. So, to answer your question, you can prove this any way you like.
I think absolutely the fact that they've got a young team doesn't give them an advantage. But the one thing about a young player, regardless of what league they're playing in, they're up for every game. They want to play. Yeah. They want to be at the best. They want to score goals. They want to do. When you've got a bunch of experienced guys that PSG used to have, then
they lax off.
They absolutely 100% relax a little bit. It's not quite as intense. And at the end of the day, when you turn around and you have to play a Champions League game, a proper game, not one of the group games where you're playing an underdog, you've got a bona fide competition. You're not quite ready for it. Whereas younger players are ready for it because they don't let it go down. They don't let the standards drop in Ligue 1 just because they're playing a team that they're supposed to beat 4 or 5-0. I think 100% the fact they've got a young group, they will continue to keep that desire in Ligue 1, which will then go into the Champions League.
I think
okay.
No, go ahead,
Shaka. No, go ahead, Shaka.
I was just going to say, I think you talk about Ligue 1 being a weaker league and therefore that playing into PSG's hands. I find that to be a nonsense in all honesty. Let's be honest. PSG have had this oil money for quite some time. Yep. They've won 1 Champions League. Real Madrid have won 4 or 5 in that same period of time. Liverpool have won a couple in that same period of time.
Even Chelsea have won.
Even Chelsea have won.
They are the best team in the world, remember?
Exactly. So to the point that the weaker league is what has given PSG an advantage, I just don't see that as holding any water.
Jan, you were saying?
But Yeah, I was saying, first of all, we are talking about the second best team in the world here, PSG, losing that final against the best team in the world. But I think maybe, yes, we can compare them with other years, but in a time when we are discussing a lot, what do you do with players, how many games they're going to play a season, that could be, and if you take that side of the story, could be an advantage for a guy like Luis Enrique. He can rest players in some games, but he knows he's going to win those games anyway. Because in Liverpool or the Manchester City races over the years, there is no chance that if you lose one game, that could be your championships. So I do understand that. So maybe this could be an advantage for them with having a lot of national players going straight now from the Club World Cup into the League. Next summer, you will have the World Cup. You will have all the qualification games. So that could be an advantage. But wow, we're talking about for many, many years now, there's been a disadvantage for PSG not to have the great games during the week. And then they have to turn up in Champions League. So I guess I'm with Gab. It depends what side you want to bring in on it.
All right, Jeremy, hope that answered your question. Next one coming from Craig's Inner Peace. Ooh.
What? Who's that?
Good luck.
That's new. I was about to say, I don't know why.
That is wishful thinking. That's like on the level of me hoping that United could win the Premier League next season. Anyways, we move on. Start, bench, drop. Oh, I love these. At their best. Stevie, let me start with you. Luis Diaz, Rodrigo, and Gabriel Martinelli. At their best. Start, bench, drop.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Holy smoke.
Well done, Craig's Inner Peace.
I know which way I'm going.
Well, I'm going to go Luis Diaz, Rodrigo, and Martinelli.
Oh, so you'll start Luis Diaz, you'll bench
start with
Rodrigo,
Luis Diaz, yes.
and you're dropping Martinelli.
Yeah, Rodrigo for me has done some good things, but I don't think he's consistently been at a certain level. And Gabriel Martinelli's had one great season at Arsenal and then hasn't quite reached those heights again. So I think Luis Diaz has been way more consistent at a high level, which is why I put him first.
But the question is at their best, Stevie.
At their best.
It's at their best. It's not who's been consistently better.
Yes, Stephen.
Yes, Stevie.
Yeah.
All right.
I still.
that is true, but I guess I don't like that. Because that means that.
Well, write in your own question.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Every day.
You don't like the question.
Right. Your edited version of the question.
You should have known we were on a slippery slope when it's from Craig's Inner Peace.
Exactly.
Okay, then answer the question.
Okay, you answered the question. And you're
Luis
standing
Diaz,
by it.
Rodrigo, and Gabriel.
All right, he's not changing. Shaka, you knew yours quickly.
No, I'm still dropping Martinelli, but I'm starting Rodrigo, benching Luis Diaz.
I love that. Some love for Rodrigo. I feel like he gets too much stick, man. Gab, what about you?
I guess at their very, very best, when he's on top of everything, I might go Rodrigo,
Yes.
Luis Diaz, and Martinelli in that order.
Jan, you're in agreement?
On a day when Luis Diaz is coming to our beloved Bundesliga and put him straight on the bench is tough. But as we understand the question, some of us, the Rodrigo's at his best, it will be number one.
How much older than Jan are you? Just out of...
I've got no idea. What are you, Jan? 60 what?
Stevie went to school with my dad, so he's
I was going to say, when you
Let's
get...
just say I was finishing when Jan was starting.
Yeah, exactly. We never played against each
That
other.
explains it. That's the reason why it slightly went over his head. Guys, we have to be sweet and slow with Stevie. It's
Yeah.
okay.
And you're smiling.
I mean, that would love in my heart.
I wonder what you look with those two front teeth.
Part of my tooth is floating around in Spain when I fell in the tub. Do you remember? Anyways, all right, from Craig's Inner Peace to Natum's interior decorator. This one's for Jan. Ooh, favorites. How do you think Leverkusen will do this year with Ten Hag, my boy, as manager?
That is a great question. I've been thinking a lot of this. What we know about Ten Hag is he likes to change things around, and I think that I thought that after Alonso they will kind of go for the same kind of manager, maybe go for a Raúl or a Fabregas, that type of coach. But when you see what's happening in Leverkusen with Xhaka out now for Sunderland, Frimpong out, Wirtz out, Radetzky out, there's so many things turning around. Maybe it's good to get a Ten Hag in, who did well for Ajax. He also had his experience from Bayern Munich, where he worked under Guardiola there when he was there. And he will say also that he won some titles for Manchester United. So I hope that Ten Hag will do well with Leverkusen. But for me, when I do the prediction of this league, the Bundesliga later, this is one of my biggest question mark in the top 6-7 teams.
Nobody else giving Ten Hag a little more hope?
It's for Jan.
I know, but you guys can chime in. You always chime in.
No.
Nobody.
It says
May
for
I
Jan.
remind you, he won trophies at Manchester United, which is no easy feat.
That's all you wanted to say. You just wanted to say that.
I'm just saying.
That's all.
I'm just saying that.
That's got nothing to do with the question. Nothing to do with the question. You just wanted to say that Manchester United won trophies once upon a time. That's all.
Eric Ten Hag's Red Army. Anyways, how far we have fallen. This one's Body Spray by Stevie Nicol. I'm not sure I want that.
Hey.
I'm kidding. Of course I would, Stevie.
Body
Stevie.
spray of Steve Nicol. That is. So you asked for body spray by a granddad, which is you called him granddad.
I don't use
not
spray.
me.
Well, he is a granddad, so it's just factual comments.
Yeah, I don't use a spray anyway. I use a roll-on.
Oh, no cologne, nothing? This explains a lot. We move on. Stevie, this question's for Stevie. In coaching, Stevie, where would you place the percentage dial between the importance of tactical aspects versus group management, leadership, aka the intangibles?
Oh, group management, leadership, and intangibles.
Straight up, that's your priority.
Listen, you can talk about tactics to players all day long. Some of them are just too stupid and too thick to understand what you're talking about.
Name them.
And so at the end of the day, you want your players to have the desire and be together and all those other things. That'll take you through. You know, tactics will take you a certain distance, but all the other stuff will carry you absolutely across the finish line.
Xhaka, were you one of those players that fell asleep in tactical meetings, or it just didn't
I
penetrate?
didn't have anything to do with that. I listen to tactics.
He says sometimes there's some daft players that you just can't get through to.
Yeah, but I'm a goalie. I'm booting the ball in the stand when it comes back to me. I'm not worried about tactics.
I'll give you an example.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. We had a player who played for the MLS All-Stars against Real Madrid in the Bernabeu. I was coaching the team. And I brought this player on and I showed him on a diagram where to stand at corners against, right?
This still has you fired up. I love it.
Honestly. And where he was supposed to stand was at the top of our box, in where the old half circle is.
Yeah.
So that if the ball's knocked out, he can help us defensively. But if it's knocked out further, he actually can go on the counter-attack. I said, are you good? He said, yes. I said, on you go. The opposition, Real Madrid, got a corner. And guess where he stood? On the halfway line, on the half circle, on the halfway line. So I'm turning to Morris. Morris Johnson was my assistant. I'm going, Morris.
Who is that player?
I believe where this guy
I know who it was.
Who is that player?
We started shouting him. We're going, and he's like, what? What? He had no idea. Honestly.
Name him.
No.
Oh, coaches
I
union.
will give you names on the team meeting, and I think I told the story before. Where Brian Robson, the manager of Middlesbrough, he had an instruction for Fabrizio Ravanelli, my roommate at the time at Middlesbrough, and he needed a translator. So Brian Robson was talking about the tactic to Fabrizio, and this guy was sitting next to me. He was Quantala, Botella, Bolela, and he was doing all this stuff. And so he said, sorry, Gab, about my Italian.
Gab is dyslexic.
I think he just ordered a pizza there, didn't he?
But it was a quite simple question for Fabrizio. Do you understand what I want you to do? And Fabrizio went out in the worst rant that I've ever heard in my life in Italian. And when he was finished with his rant in this team meeting, the translator turned to Robson and said, yes, okay. So he was okay with that.
I think he censored it very, very well. All right, next question now, shall we? At a major tournament, your country doesn't qualify for which seems to happen a lot for you guys, unfortunately. Wow, shots fired. Whose country are you talking about? Anyways, who do you root for? Do you pick someone ahead of time or just see who captures your eye after the tournament starts? I'm not gonna lie, he's kind of right though, because we do have trouble. Our countries are having trouble qualifying for tournaments. Probably save for Gab, because obviously Italy still is a powerhouse, but they had some questionable times too. So who do you root for, Gab, when Italy doesn't qualify?
Well, when it comes to Euros, okay, we did win one, but recently, but no, I've had that dilemma many times. Of course, missing out on the last 2 World Cups, or giving other teams a chance to win it. People who, all those sad countries that don't have 4 stars on their shirt. That's how I like to think of it. No, for me, it's just a personal choice. From I grew up partly in Japan, so I always find myself supporting Japan, and I have long had a soft spot. People know this for Nigeria. And the Super Eagles and that green shirt going all the way back to the 1994 World Cup. So those are normally the 2 teams, and then it kind of progresses from there, and it's kind of whoever's playing against Germany. Ultimately, that's what I root for.
Love that. Jan, what about you?
Well, we qualified in 1994. That was the first time Norway qualified since 1938. So I was very used to support other teams during a World Cup. I was connected to England, but I was also connected to Germany. 74 and 78, England won at the championship at the World Cup. So I followed West Germany at that time. But I made a change in 82. Because I was in love with Paolo Rossi. So I was one of the few people that wanted Italy to beat Brazil, that fantastic Brazil team. But Rossi scored 3 goals, fantastic goals. And then, of course, Tardelli at the final, the goal celebration, I mean, wow. And then they beat West Germany that I have supported before. So sometimes it's on a feeling that it's a player or a team that you love.
I love how Jan had to say it with the hands. When you're talking Italian and saying Italian names, you have to bring up the hands, don't you? Shaka, what about you? Because you and I with Trinidad and Jamaica, we're pretty much in the same boat.
We are.
But in the Caribbean, a lot of us support Brazil. Growing up, so
absolutely.
That would be my choice for sure.
First of all, if Trinidad and Tobago isn't there, I'm thinking Caribbean, primarily Jamaica as the only likely qualifier for any other major tournament. If Jamaica isn't there, I'm then thinking Brazil, one of the African countries. Of the European countries, England and France are my go-tos.
Shaka, you support England?
Yeah.
We will speak about that another day. Stevie, you definitely don't support England.
Anybody who's playing England, I'm rooting for.
And beating them even more.
Oh, yes, please. Yeah. That's the icing on the cake.
Yeah, I knew that. But anybody else that catches your eye at least? Because he does say anybody.
Brazil.
Yeah, of course.
Norway.
Really?
Yeah, I used to, for about
Just throw in Italy while you're at it.
Yeah.
For about 3 or 4 years,
We're in
I
Jamaica
did some
too.
coaching in Norway. Had a great time in Oslo.
Oh.
So I've got a kind of a wee soft spot. And we used to go there a lot pre-season with Liverpool. I've got a little soft spot for Norway.
Oh.
In the Caribbean, who are you supporting? Jamaica or Trinidad and Tobago? Just saying. I was always your #1 fan, Stevie. Come on, Stevie, it's not that hard.
Sorry, Shaq, that swung it.
Hey! Stevie, you are welcome to Jamaica always. Next question now is for Gab. Percentage chance that Napoli will repeat as champions this upcoming campaign? Will my Scott McTominay be happy again?
You know what? Right now, I kind of make them favorites to do it again. I like what Inter have done, but obviously Christian Kivu is going to be a question mark this season. It's pretty much inevitable. Antonio Conte was able to add to the team, and I know there's this perception of Antonio Conte year 2, he screws things up, and we don't know how he's going to balance that between that and the Champions League. But right now, yeah, I think you have to consider them as slight favorites. They've added depth. He has a very clear idea of what he wants from the team. I don't expect McTominay to be as good as he was last year, but he doesn't need to. And I am so looking forward to Kevin De Bruyne's swan song. I want him to stay fit, and I want him to dispense magic.
All right, I love that. Well, the next question is also for Gab. As a matter of fact, the next two questions are for Gab. Sorry, boys. Gab, a food question. This one's from Ben. Pat's or Geno's?
Pat's,
Philly cheesesteaks, okay.
Yeah, sorry, gotta be Pat's. I used to go there regularly when I was in college in Philadelphia, and I most recently went there during the Club World Cup, and I even purchased a T-shirt.
Okay, there you, Stevie, you're.
Oh my God!
Are you disgusted? Why? You would eat that. I've seen you eat some questionable stuff. What about this one?
Oh, that looks nice. The first one was putrid.
Yeah.
The first one looked
This is,
First one was
Pat's.
Geno's,
This is
yeah.
what Gab's chosen. But
Look at that on the left.
I
Somebody's
kind of like
just
the one with
thrown
the
that
relish.
off.
I like the one with the relish.
Somebody scraped that out the bin. That first one.
This actually is a brilliant question because I'm off to Philadelphia tomorrow and I have never tried a cheesesteak and I can't wait to
Well, you
try
can
one.
answer that next week. Pat's,
Right.
you have
Yeah,
to try
yeah,
both.
okay,
you
I'll
have to
try
try Pat's
both.
and Geno's. And